stressed out and no place to go. I mean, we've all been in that mode for the past 6 weeks at least. Seems like a little longer some days. And, you know, we're all adjusting to this new normal. Oftentimes in our field, we work with companies after they've had a disruptive event and go on site and provide some support. This feels like sort of the master of disruptive events, because it surely has been. So we're going to be talking a lot about that, how we react to that, what about the worry and the fear associated with it, what we can do, and how can we take care of ourselves and others. So it's really about adjusting to a new normal, which may look like this in your home, I don't know, but everybody's new abnormal is disruptive in one way or another. Whether, you know, some people are still working and in harm's way and some are working from home with folks from multiple generations in the home, all while homeschooling and or taking care of younger kids and elder relatives. So it's really such a mix, and everybody's experience is so different that it's hard to generalize because, you know, we're all at home with an entirely different kind of situation. But definitely a disruptive event. And I love the way this definition goes. It says, I use this term to describe any event that could potentially transform our personal lives into one of chaos, distress, confusion, or all of the above. I think that kind of says it all. As we talk to people over these past 6 weeks, everybody's got a new story of that disruption. So it is normal reactions to abnormal events, and we can see what happens as a result. There's a ripple effect everywhere in all parts of our lives. Everything from the simplest things that we've all done before, you know, go to the grocery store, get a haircut. I can't wait for the salons to reopen. You know, things like that. It's just everywhere and has impacted the rhythms of our lives that we probably took for granted all along. So sometimes putting that structure back is a good way to feel in control again. But before we talk about this next slide, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I just want to share with you some poll numbers from the American Psychiatric Association about the impact on people. So you can see definitely how disruptive this has all been. What they found in their survey was 62% of people were most fearful of a family or a loved one getting COVID-19. 48% were concerned about themselves getting COVID-19, and 40% were most fearful of getting seriously ill with COVID-19. And as I recall, the numbers in our area are still going up. So we haven't hit the plateau, and, you know, we're still in the middle of it. The effects, the other question that they asked was the effects of stress on folks, and 24% said they had trouble concentrating, 19% said trouble sleeping, 12% said they had the number of arguments with their loved ones and family members had increased, and 8% they said they were consuming more alcohol or drugs. Those numbers seem a little low to me, just from what I've heard, but you know, that's what the survey says, so that's what we'll go with. So one way to frame up these challenges, I think, is to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which many of you may have heard before. It's a common reference around self-development and what we need to feel safe in order to continue to develop and function well. So it's a great framework for that, and especially in light of disruptive events, and this one in particular. Because as you can see from the drawing here, the bottom of the triangle is our physiological needs. And I mean, obviously our physiological needs have changed dramatically. And it's sort of the maintenance of your basic bodily needs, you know, food, air, water, sleep. You know, and here now we're talking about food shortages. So even those things are impacted. The safety is on the next level and means financial, health, well-being, and control and order in our lives. You know, clearly those things have fallen apart too. and been really challenged. And then the belonging is the relationship and connectedness, which has really been a struggle as we've all struggled to maintain connectedness in this world of physical distancing. So the COVID-19 has really impacted us in our most basic needs, in our most basic ways. And I say that in order that we can step back and give ourselves a little grace and a little room, and that you don't have to be, perfect, and don't have to be functioning perfectly during this time. It's okay to give yourself a little grace and a little room. So let's look at, we mentioned in the previous slide that the survey showed that 62% were most anxious about loved ones getting sick with COVID. And, these fears are common with folks these days. And it's hard to know sometimes, when are the fears okay and when are they not? When is it realistic? Or when am I going off the rails? When has it gone too far? And it's hard to know because this crisis hits some of the most crucial factors in fueling that fear. It's unpredictable. It changes every day. We're all hearing new information all the time, new symptoms, new treatments, new ways that the disease is manifesting. It certainly is beyond our control and sustained for a very long period of time. They're talking about maybe a vaccine will be ready by January 2021. So, we're in this for a long time. And I think that can lead to us feeling out of control. And there are many things that we can do to feel more in control, but oftentimes what we do is become more irrational with our fears or more reactive. And you can see that sometimes as the public reacts to some of the restrictions that various states put on. We also can micromanage other areas of our lives just to feel in control, and also sometimes gather information obsessively. So all those behaviors can be just ways to try and gain control in a situation where you really don't have any. So how do you know? When is worrying too much? When is the worry that you're experiencing off the rails, so to speak? One way to look at that is, are you preoccupied with it? Are you unable to do other things that you want to do because you're just preoccupied with the what if? That what if question is always going to the future, and that tends to cause anxiety. Whereas if you can stay in the present and focus on what you can control now in the present, anxiety tends to subside. The ruminations are another thing that interferes with functioning and it interferes with sleep, appetite, and all kinds of inability to function properly. And a lot of the rumination too is more of that what if thinking. So that's a sign that worry has gone too far for you. The news 24/7, turn it off. It just gets to be too stressful to watch it all the time. And I think it can really lend itself to a feeling of panic. That's really not necessary. If we just sort of follow the rules, stay inside and, do what we're supposed to do in terms of social distancing, wearing masks, control what you can and move forward. Are you finding that you have panic attacks? It's a good time then to talk to somebody and get some help with that because they can be pretty scary. So, and if anybody is someone who's already prone to anxiety or depression, you'll probably find that this will just trigger you. So it's a good time to ask for some help and talk to folks about that. And if somebody comes to you to talk about something like that, it's really a good idea to listen and just support and encourage. Because sometimes how you listen, not to really listen, but just to say what you want to say. It's a good time to breathe, settle back, and really listen to people talk about their feelings and just support and encourage. You can't really talk people out of things. You can't talk them out of how they feel, but being able to talk about it can really be useful. So what are the other things we can do? Because we're not just here, you know, out of control with nothing we can do. There are things that we can do, and it's important to focus on that. Give yourself some grace, like I said before. Expect some range of emotions. Some days are going to be good, others will not. Some days you might feel more fearful, or sadness. And other days you just might feel great, like this is working fine, and I can handle this. And that's really normal. And sometimes people think as these reactions may change, well, maybe something's wrong with me. Nothing's wrong with you. It's called, you know, normal reactions to abnormal events, and it's okay. Grief reactions are common. We've lost so many things, so many intangibles. And now as we head into spring season, it's just a litany of losses. Look at all the graduations kids are missing, all of those lasts that those high school seniors are missing. Weddings, graduations, all sorts of things, all those last sports seasons, last plays, last everything that happens sort of in that May and June milestone. Or maybe you've had family members who pass away, and the whole structure of the way that's happening these days, being unable to be with loved ones and having to do funerals and memorial services via Zoom is pretty difficult. Identify and talk about feelings and encourage families to do the same. Sometimes just talking about things can just take the toxicity away and gives them less power, and can really be helpful. And I think managing your expectations too goes with expecting a range of emotions. Sure, we're all going to get cabin fever, and we'll all just do the best we can and go outside and when we can and when it's safe, and not expect things to be perfect. Reframing and positive thinking and self-talk can help as well. You know, if you get up in the morning and start with a doom and gloom, this is going to be a terrible day, it probably will be. You know, this morning for all of you, you know, I don't know if it started out like this for you, but the rain was pouring and I thought, oh, not another day like yesterday. But the sun is out now. So, and that was the first thing I looked at. How long is this going to go on? And actually the weather app said it would go on till about noon, but now the sun is out. So that's unexpected and wonderful. So if there's any things you can do to just reframe something negative and relabel it into something more positive, it can be helpful. So that in that way, you're not allowing the fear and the negative self-talk take over. Also staying informed, but within limits, so that you can see what's going on, but you're not 24/7 on the news. Connecting with other people, you know, physical distance, as we've all been learning these last 6 weeks, is not social distance. And we can stay connected, and we're seeing so many ways that people are staying connected, even with physical distancing. Things like this, you know, Zoom meetings, whether it's Zoom, GoToWebinar, what is the one, House Party, Google Hangout. There's so many platforms that people are using to stay connected. Reaching out and doing something out of your sphere is really helpful. If there's something you can do locally in terms of contributing to food banks or anything like that, getting out of your own bubble is really helpful. You know, before this disruption, we all probably had routines and structure to our lives that's now changed entirely. So as you're looking at this new way, it's helpful to develop some routine and structure as well. In that way, you at least have you're in control of something, and you have a routine and structure that you're in control of. And you can use healthy distractions too to get you through. Exercise and healthy eating, hugely important. And there's so many online examples of exercise apps and all you can use. Peloton has some, what's the other one? Oh, there's so many. You probably see gazillions of those pop up all the time. And with COVID-19, they've made a lot of those free. So at least you have, I think most of them have like a 30 or 60-day free model. And healthy eating, I know it's so easy to go to the comfort food these days. And you know, all the sugar, butter, cinnamon, what can't that be? Great. Ice cream and all those things, the comfort foods. But if you can try and focus on eating healthy, you're going to feel better, and you certainly will be in better shape and have an immune system in better shape if you do get sick. The other thing that I haven't mentioned yet is gratitude. There's been studies lately showing that working on a practice of gratitude decreases fear and anxiety. And I think it sort of gets you out of your own head so that you're looking at what are you grateful for. So you're doing a number of things, focusing on something positive and getting out of your own head quite so much. Mindfulness and journaling are also great. There's been a lot of research about mindfulness and how it can help with fear and anxiety. There's a lot of apps around that as well, and they've been free too with this COVID-19. There's one called Mindfulness, Headspace, Calm, to name a few. And you don't have to get into the, they are mindfulness meditation apps, but you can set the timer for 3 minutes and practice. And it's all about practicing to become familiar with it. And it can really have a calming effect and increase your ability to function with all of the stress. So on the practical side, I've got a couple of practical things that can be helpful for calming stress. One is it's a grounding exercise for anxiety and panic attacks. And it just really helps you focus on the here and now, gets you out of the future, out of the past, and focus on now. So what you do is just kind of relax, do your breathing, abdominal breathing, and look around for 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And you just can do that while you're, doing anything at home. If you feel your anxiety increasing, just stop yourself and look. What are 5 things I'm seeing? Name them to yourself and go through the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and just repeat it again. It's a really useful grounding exercise to help squelch that anxiety a bit. The other anxiety exercise that can help with anxiety is square breathing. And with this, it's a simple breathing exercise, and you just repeat it. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds, and rinse and repeat. And again, it's a grounding exercise to keep you in the present, focused on breathing and breath. And it'll physiologically help calm a lot of that anxiety. So wellness is also an important thing that you can control and you can do. And some of these things we've already talked about, but taking a break from work, just because you're working at home doesn't mean it's 24/7. Take a break, move. When I say exercise, it doesn't mean it has to be formal exercise. Maybe you can take a break from work, move around, do a little bit of walking, stretching, things like that. It doesn't have to be a formal thing. Good sleep hygiene is important, and ask for help when you need it. You just can't do everything yourself. And schedule some recreation in your week. What can you do to get out, move, and put some change in there? Staying connected with family, friends, and colleagues is really important. It's a great time to reach out to people who maybe you haven't seen in a while, or schedule regular meetings with friends and family, just to stay connected. So, and again, healthy eating and structure can really help with that as well. And of course, a sense of humor. They have always said laughter is the best medicine, and it really can be. There's so many funny memes out there on the internet floating around. And, they're great to pass around, and another great way to stay connected. So what's better than to laugh? So those are great things. Instead of sitting in front of a Netflix documentary, find a comedy, something to get you laughing. Now, the other thing to take a look at is, everybody is stressed, and many of you are in leadership positions in your company, and you have a lot of responsibility that you're carrying now. But you also have all the other things that everybody else does. You still have the same stressors, but you also have the stress of being in that leadership position and having that responsibility. And a lot of this self-care really is just as important, or maybe even more important for you in a leadership position. So as a leader, it's important, as you know, just to communicate. You can't over-communicate. Just keep the communication going in a way that acknowledges the ambiguity of it and is transparent. I mean, people want to know what's going on, what decisions have been made, is the company in a good place, what's the plan moving forward. But they also want to hear you ask, how are you doing and how can I help? How's this working from home going for you? So just ask these questions and listen to what people have to say. You don't have to fix everything necessarily. Sometimes just the act of listening can really help. Some people might be working from home, and at this point, a lot of companies are preparing and making plans for coming back. And I know, like in our own company, as we talk about that, we have several people who have people with compromised immune systems in their household due to chronic illnesses. So they probably don't want to come back because they can't afford to have that extra risk. And working from home has been working. So, you have to consider everything and just ask for some feedback and listen and ask people how they're doing. I think it's also a good time to remind ourselves from a leadership position of some of the emotional intelligence skills that you probably use all the time and just forget about. They say leaders know thyself is the biggest thing you can do as a leader, is to know yourself, because it puts you in a better position to help others and to manage things. And so I've just put this slide in just as reminders, as I see we have about 5 minutes left, that self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management are important factors there to be that self-knowledge. What are your triggers and how can you better lead and manage yourself? To know yourself better and build trust in the organization. And a lot of that comes down to modeling what it is you want to communicate. So it's modeling self-care as well, so that you can be available for your employees and respond in a way that's healthy, because you're handling your stress in a healthy way. And reducing stigma, I think, is part of that authenticity that comes with it. That if you're struggling, that's perfectly fine. And you don't have to hide that. I was watching the other night, Stephen Colbert had Jake Gyllenhaal on, talk about reducing stigma. Those two were talking about their conversations with their therapist during COVID-19 and about their anxieties. I thought, wow, that goes a long way to reducing stigma. So that's awesome. Also, think of it in terms of put your mask on first, so that you can step back and evaluate and look at these things so that you can manage yourself in a way that's positive and healthy. The relax and breathe is important here too. Like now, if you're just listening, notice, are your shoulders tense? Is your jaw tense? Are you feeling just like all wound up? Take a simple breath, just notice those things and breathe through them. Anytime you're feeling tense or stressed, anxious, take a few minutes to do some of those breathing exercises, and you may find it to be really helpful. So how about some daily quarantine questions? Just to kind of set you up for the day and thinking about what am I grateful for, starting there, and who am I connecting with today? What expectations of normal am I letting go of today? How am I getting outside today? It has stopped raining, so that's great. How am I moving my body today? And what beauty am I creating, cultivating, and inviting today? And those came from the Center for Mindfulness and Justice. And remembering that, you know, this too shall pass. It feels like it's been a very long time, and it probably will be a longer time. But it has given us new opportunities for learning and connection. I never thought I'd know so much about Zoom, GoToWebinar, Google Hangout, and all of those things. So it has provided some learning. Here's just some of my resources that we used for today. Some books, apps, podcasts, and I'll just end here with my contact information. You'll notice on this slide, we have a lot of free webinars on our website. Since the COVID-19 happened about 6 weeks ago, we started doing webinars weekly on a variety of topics related to coping during this time. And you can find these all for free on this website, allonehealth.com blog-webinars. They're all free, and they're just recordings of what we've been doing. So feel free to go listen to those. They're free and available to anyone. So that puts us, Cassie, I see at 11:29.
You're so good, Beth. Thank you so much. I think that was super helpful. And, you know, our goal today was to give everybody a few things to walk away with. And I'm hoping, I know for myself, not only will I walk away with some things today, but I did some of those exercises with Beth as she was talking. And sometimes we just need the reminder to stop and bring it back into perspective, shift the focus a little bit. I also think too, it's a really astute point to get outside of your bubble. I think it was easy, especially when we first started this whole COVID journey of working from home and social distancing. It was easy to stay in the bubble of survival, right? Let me survive. Let me keep my family surviving. Just like the stats you talked about, that people are so fearful. The majority of people are so fearful about their loved one getting sick. So we're all just in this bubble of trying to stay alive. And I think where we have opportunities to get out of the bubble, even for a moment, to try to help someone else. I know for me, that's been meaningful to be able to give to food banks. No amount is too small to give to a food bank to help feed people right now. So anything you can do, I think, to expand your reach, it also makes us feel really good. And that's self-fulfilling, and that's okay. So I think these were a lot of great tips, Beth. Thank you so much. I will unmute the lines right now for people that have questions. Go ahead and ask your question. We've got Beth for a couple of more minutes, so let's go ahead and take advantage. If I can't unmute you, it's because you've got yourself muted, which is fine. Go ahead and feel free to unmute at this point and ask your question. All right, I don't have any questions thus far. As a reminder, I will be sending out the presentation. I will also be sending out the recording. So should you wish to re-listen and get some reminders on these tips, please do so. As always, we are here for you. We will continue to send you things that are related to mental health. We will continue to send you things that are related to return to work plans, which I've got going out on Monday. So even if you and I haven't met, you've probably seen a million emails from me that are about resources that we have to offer and ways to help you during this time and during all times. So please don't hesitate to contact anyone from the Summit team. Don't hesitate to contact Beth. And I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and stay healthy, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Cassie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.